In 1494, Piero de Medici, ruler of Florence, heir to the most powerful family in Italy, faced an invasion from the French King Charles VIII. Piero had every advantage: wealth, alliances, a fortified city, and the Medici name. But instead of fighting, Piero chose goodness. He rode out to meet Charles personally. He surrendered 3 key fortresses without a single demand. He handed over ports, treasure, and territorial rights, all to show good faith. He believed his generosity would earn the French king's respect and friendship. Instead, Charles took everything, laughed, and marched into Florence anyway. The Florentine people were so disgusted by Piero's weakness that they exiled him. The Medici dynasty, built over generations, collapsed in a single afternoon because one man chose to be good at the wrong moment. Machiavelli was 25 years old when this happened. He watched the most powerful family in Italy destroy itself through kindness. And he spent the rest of his life answering one question: why does goodness so often destroy the people who practice it? Today I'm revealing 8 strategic principles from the prince that expose the shocking cost of goodness. This is not a video about becoming evil. This is a video about understanding why unstrategic goodness is the most dangerous thing you can practice. Let's begin. Principle 1. Goodness without strategy is self-destruction. Machiavelli opens The Prince with an observation that still shocks readers 5 centuries later. He writes, "A man who wishes to act entirely up to his professions of virtue soon meets with what destroys him among so much that is evil." Read that again. He's not saying goodness is wrong. He's saying goodness without awareness of reality is suicide. The world contains people who will exploit your kindness without hesitation. Your generosity will be taken as weakness. Your honesty will be used as ammunition. Your forgiveness will be interpreted as permission to hurt you again. A gazelle doesn't survive by being good. It survives by being aware. It can be peaceful and still know where the lion is hiding. Machiavelli studied dozens of rulers who were genuinely good people, charitable, honest, forgiving. Nearly every single one was overthrown, exiled, or killed, not by evil enemies but by the very people they trusted and helped. The principle is not, stop being good. The principle is, stop being good blindly. Attach strategy to your virtue. Know when to give and when to withhold. Know who deserves your kindness and who is studying it for weaknesses. Goodness is a gift. Strategy decides who deserves to receive it. Principle 2. Generosity becomes a trap that devours you. Machiavelli dedicates an entire chapter of The Prince to this. Chapter 16. He writes, "A prince who is generous will consume all his resources. He will then be forced to burden his people with excessive taxes. He will become hated. And in trying to avoid hatred he will become poor. Generosity will have led him to both poverty and contempt." This is not theory. This is exactly what happened to Emperor Titus of Rome. Titus was called the love of mankind. He never refused a request. He gave lavishly to the public. He funded games, buildings, disaster relief, everything the people wanted. The result? The treasury emptied. Taxes increased. The military weakened. The same people who loved his generosity began to resent the consequences of it. His reign lasted only 2 years. Now compare this to Augustus, Rome's greatest emperor. Augustus was calculated with every coin. He gave strategically, only where it strengthened his position. He invested in infrastructure that generated returns. He funded the military that protected his power. He was called disciplined, never generous. And he ruled for 41 years. The trap of generosity: once people receive from you, they don't become grateful. They become expectant. They don't say thank you. They say, what's next? And the moment you stop giving, they don't remember the 100 times you gave. They remember the one time you didn't. Machiavelli's rule: it is better to be called stingy and maintain your resources than to be called generous and lose everything. Principle 3. Kindness signals weakness to predators. In nature, a wounded animal doesn't receive sympathy from predators. It receives attention. The limp, the exposed wound, the visible struggle. These are not met with compassion. They are met with an attack. Human social dynamics operate on the same principle, just with better disguises. When you are excessively kind in a competitive environment, forgiving every offense, tolerating every disrespect, absorbing every unfair treatment, predatory personalities don't admire you. They categorize you. You become a target, someone who won't fight back, won't set boundaries, won't retaliate. Machiavelli observed this pattern in Italian courts relentlessly. The kindest nobles were always the first to be betrayed. Their allies took their territories. Their advisors stole their secrets. Their own families plotted against them. Not because they were bad leaders, but because their kindness communicated a message: I will not punish you. And when punishment is removed from the equation, there is no cost to betrayal. Loyalty without consequence becomes optional. And optional loyalty is no loyalty at all. The principle: kindness must always have a visible boundary. Be kind, but make it clear that crossing you has a price. The combination of warmth with visible strength is the rarest and most powerful social position a person can hold. Principle 4. People have short memories for your sacrifices. Machiavelli writes, men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous. As long as you succeed, they are yours entirely. They will offer you their blood, property, life, and children when the need is far distant. But when it approaches, they turn against you. This is the most painful principle on this list, because most of us have already experienced it. You sacrifice your time for someone, they forget within a week. You lend money to a friend, they avoid you until the debt feels irrelevant. You stay loyal to a company for years, they replace you the moment the budget tightens. This is not pessimism. This is documented human behavior. Psychologists call it the gratitude decay effect. The emotional impact of a favor diminishes rapidly over time. A study from the University of Pennsylvania found that feelings of gratitude from a received favor dropped by over 50% within just 72 hours. The person you helped last month has already emotionally moved on. But the cost you paid, the energy, the time, the money, that cost is permanent. The principle: never sacrifice more than you can afford to lose. And never sacrifice expecting reciprocity. If you give, give strategically. Give where it builds something. Give where it strengthens a relationship worth maintaining. And accept that most people will forget your sacrifice before the week is over. Principle 5. Mercy without limits creates more suffering than cruelty. This is Machiavelli's most controversial argument, and the one that earned him 5 centuries of hatred. But read it carefully. He writes, Cesare Borgia was considered cruel. Yet his cruelty restored the Romagna region, unified it, and brought it peace and order. If we consider this properly, we shall see that Borgia was much more merciful than the Florentine people, who, to avoid the reputation of cruelty, allowed the destruction of Pistoia. What happened in Pistoia? 2 factions were tearing the city apart with violence. Florence, wanting to appear merciful, refused to intervene harshly. They sent diplomats. They attempted compromise. They showed mercy to both sides. The result? The violence escalated. Hundreds of civilians died. The city was devastated. Borgia faced a similar situation in Romagna. Instead of endless mercy, he sent one ruthless enforcer, Ramiro de Orco, who crushed the disorder brutally and swiftly. The violence stopped. Trade resumed. People felt safe. Then Borgia had de Orco publicly executed, signaling that even his own enforcers were not above justice. One act of controlled cruelty saved thousands from prolonged suffering. Unlimited mercy extended the suffering indefinitely. The principle: sometimes the kindest long-term action is the hardest short-term decision. A parent who never disciplines a child isn't merciful, they're negligent. A leader who never enforces consequences isn't compassionate, they're enabling chaos. Principle 6. Trust is a currency, stop giving it away for free. Machiavelli tells the story of Vitellozzo Vitelli, a skilled military commander who trusted Cesare Borgia openly, publicly, and completely. He declared his loyalty in front of witnesses. He attended private meetings unarmed. He brought his troops under Borgia's banner without a written agreement. Borgia invited Vitelli to a reconciliation meeting at Senigallia. Vitelli arrived smiling. By midnight he was strangled. Was Borgia evil? By modern standards, absolutely. But Machiavelli's lesson isn't about Borgia's morality. It's about Vitelli's naivety. Trust should function like an investment, allocated carefully, monitored constantly, and never given in amounts you can't afford to lose. Most good people make the same mistake. They trust by default and revoke trust only after betrayal. The dangerous man does the opposite. He withholds trust by default and grants it only after evidence. This doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you protected. There's a difference between being suspicious of everyone and being strategic about who gets access to your vulnerabilities. Give your time freely. Give your kindness freely. But your trust? That is a vault. And very few people should have the key. Principle 7. Manipulators weaponize your goodness against you. This is the principle that will make you uncomfortable, because you've already experienced it. Every manipulator in your life has used the same playbook. Identify the good person, study their values, then use those values as leverage. You value loyalty, so they guilt you into staying in toxic situations by questioning your loyalty. You value fairness, so they frame every argument to make you feel like the unfair one. You value kindness, so they punish your boundaries by calling you selfish the moment you say no. Machiavelli observed this pattern in every court in Italy. The most virtuous advisors were always the most manipulated, precisely because their virtue was predictable. Manipulators knew exactly which buttons to press. Tell the honest man he's being dishonest, he panics. Tell the kind man he's being cruel, he surrenders immediately. Modern psychology calls this emotional exploitation, targeting a person's core values to control their behavior. Research from the University of British Columbia found that people who score highest in agreeableness are the most likely to be exploited in workplace negotiations, earning significantly less, accepting unfair workloads, and tolerating toxic treatment longer than any other personality type. Your goodness is beautiful. But if you don't protect it with awareness, it becomes the very chain that keeps you prisoner. The principle, know your values. But also know that someone is always studying them. Guard your virtues the same way you guard your secrets, because to the wrong person they are the same thing. Principle 8. The strategic good man is the most powerful man alive. This is the principle that ties everything together, and the one Machiavelli hinted at but never stated directly. After studying every ruler in Italy, every chapter of Roman history, every power dynamic he witnessed, Machiavelli didn't conclude that evil wins. He concluded that blind goodness loses. There's a difference. The man who is genuinely kind but strategically aware is the most dangerous and most powerful person in any room. He's dangerous because you can't manipulate him. He sees through every tactic. He's powerful because people are drawn to authentic warmth, but they also sense that crossing him carries a real cost. Think of Abraham Lincoln. He was known as one of the kindest presidents in American history. He wrote letters of compassion to grieving mothers. He pardoned soldiers who deserted out of fear. He treated political enemies with respect. But he also waged the bloodiest war in American history to preserve the Union. He suspended habeas corpus. He fired generals ruthlessly when they underperformed. He made decisions that cost hundreds of thousands of lives, because the mission demanded it. Kindness and strength. Compassion and calculation. Warmth and boundaries. These are not contradictions. They are the combination that creates someone truly untouchable. The final message of Machiavelli is not, become evil. It is, stop being naive. The world will take everything from a good man who doesn't understand power. It will take his money, his time, his energy, his dignity, and his peace, and it won't even say thank you. But the world cannot touch a good man who understands strategy. Because he gives with intention, trusts with evidence, forgives with limits, and loves with boundaries. He is kind but never weak. Generous, but never exploited. Trusting but never naive. Forgiving but never foolish. That man doesn't need to be feared. He doesn't need to be loved. He is respected, and respect is the only currency that never loses its value. As Machiavelli wrote, the wise man does at once what the fool does finally. Stop learning these lessons through pain. Learn them here. Apply them today. And become the man that goodness alone could never build, but strategy and goodness together will make unstoppable. If this video changed how you see your own kindness, hit that like button. Not because I asked, because this video earned it. Subscribe if you want content that turns you from a good man into an untouchable one. Share this with the nicest person you know. They need these principles more than anyone on earth. See you in the next one.